Ladies and gentlemen, economic Asian guy here. We are 18 hours into the most significant supply shock in modern commodity history, and the industrial world is starting to panic. Yesterday at midnight Beijing time, China's silver export licensing system went live. Today, January 2nd, 2026, marks day one of a new world order where 44 Chinese companies hold the keys to global silver supply. Not 440 companies, not 4,400 companies. Exactly 44 hand-picked, state-controlled entities now decide which Western factories get to operate and which ones shut down. Think about that number, 44 companies controlling 60% of global silver supply. That's not a market. That's not even an oligopoly. That's a government-sanctioned cartel with the power to strangle Western industry at will. And the panic is already beginning. In the last 12 hours, we've received reports of emergency procurement meetings at Tesla, Apple, Samsung, and every major tech company that depends on silver for their products. Supply chain managers, who went home Friday thinking they had secure contracts, woke up Tuesday morning to discover their suppliers can no longer export. The emails started flooding in at 6 a.m. Due to new regulatory requirements, we regret to inform you that we cannot fulfill existing silver delivery commitments. Contract after contract, supplier after supplier, gone, overnight. What we're witnessing isn't just a commodity squeeze, it's the weaponization of the periodic table. China just proved that controlling physical resources trumps financial engineering, that atoms beat algorithms, that industrial reality crushes paper promises. Welcome to Supply Shock Day 1, where 44 Chinese companies just became more powerful than the entire Western financial system. And this is only the beginning. Let me introduce you to the 44 companies that now control the fate of Western industry, because these aren't random market participants. These are strategically selected instruments of Chinese state power. Leading the list is China Minmetals Corporation, a state-owned enterprise that's now licensed to export up to 150 million ounces annually. China Minmetals isn't just a mining company, it's a division of the Chinese government with offices in every major Western capital. When Western companies call begging for silver, they're not negotiating with a business, they're negotiating with Beijing. Second on the list is China National Gold Group Corporation, another state-owned giant licensed for 120 million ounces annually. Like Minmetals, China National Gold operates under direct Communist Party oversight. Their pricing decisions aren't made in boardrooms, they're made in government ministries. Together, these two companies control nearly 70% of China's licensed export capacity. That's 270 million ounces out of 400 million total global supply now flowing through entities that report directly to Xi Jinping. But here's where it gets truly Machiavellian. The remaining 42 licensed companies aren't random selections either. They include Shandong Gold, Zijin Mining, and Lingbao Gold, all companies with significant Communist Party ownership and leadership. Even the private companies on the list like Sichuan Aochen and Henan Yuguang Gold and Lead operate under state supervision and party guidance. These aren't independent market actors. They're coordinated monopolists executing state policy. And their mission isn't profit maximization. It's strategic leverage maximization. When Samsung's procurement team calls Shandong Gold offering $90 per ounce for 10 million ounces, Shandong Gold doesn't just consider the financial terms. They consult with Beijing about Samsung's technology transfers. They ask about semiconductor cooperation. They leverage silver access for strategic concessions. This is economic warfare disguised as commodity trading. But the most chilling aspect of this 44-company system is what's not on the list. Thousands of Chinese silver refineries and trading companies that have supplied Western markets for decades were denied licenses. Companies with decades of relationships, proven track records, and established supply chains were systematically excluded. Why? Because Beijing wanted concentration, not competition. They wanted control, not choice. The 44 licensed companies aren't competing with each other for Western customers. They're coordinating with each other to extract maximum strategic value from Western desperation. Now let's dive into the industrial panic that's spreading across Western supply chains because the phone calls started at dawn. Tesla's supply chain team discovered that 3 of their primary silver suppliers lost their export licenses overnight. Apple's procurement division learned that their annual supply contracts for 15 million ounces are now worthless. Samsung's semiconductor division faces immediate production disruptions as their silver paste suppliers can no longer deliver. These aren't theoretical problems, these are assembly line shutdowns happening in real time. Let me walk you through what happened at Tesla this morning. At 7:23 a.m. Austin time, Tesla's head of materials procurement received an email from Kunming Noble Metals, one of their largest silver suppliers. The subject line, force majeure, export license denied. The message was short. Due to new Chinese export regulations, we regret to inform you that we cannot fulfill existing contracts for silver delivery. All pending shipments are canceled effective immediately. Tesla's Austin Gigafactory consumes 47,000 ounces of silver monthly for Model Y production. Their Buffalo Solar facility needs 23,000 ounces for photovoltaic cell manufacturing. Kunming Noble Metals was supposed to deliver 185,000 ounces in Q1 2026. That delivery just disappeared. By 8 a.m., emergency procurement meetings were underway. By 9 a.m., Tesla's stock was down 3% on supply chain concerns. By 10 a.m., Elon Musk was personally calling the CEOs of Western silver producers begging for emergency allocations. But here's the problem. Western silver production can't fill the gap. The entire United States produces 40 million ounces annually. Tesla alone needs 840,000 ounces. When you add Apple's 15 million ounce requirement, Samsung's 8 million, and every other tech company's needs, Western supply is overwhelmed by 1,000%. The math is impossible. The shortage is structural. The panic is rational. And this brings us to the cascade effect that's rippling through every industry that touches silver. Solar panel manufacturers are scrambling because 70% of their silver paste came from Chinese suppliers. Semiconductor fabricators are hoarding inventory because their ultra-pure silver wire sources just vanished. Medical device companies are facing shortages because their antimicrobial silver components can no longer be sourced. Even jewelry manufacturers are panicking because their silver alloy suppliers lost export licenses. This isn't just affecting tech giants. It's affecting every company, every product, every supply chain that relies on silver's unique properties. And silver's properties are irreplaceable. You can't substitute copper for silver in high-frequency electronics. You can't use aluminum for silver's antimicrobial applications. You can't replace silver with anything else in photovoltaic cells without destroying efficiency. Silver is atomic element 47. It has no substitutes for critical applications. When the supply disappears, you either pay whatever it costs or shut down production. Period. This brings us to how China's license monopoly system actually operates, because this isn't free market capitalism. This is state-managed resource warfare. The 44 licensed companies don't set prices independently. They coordinate through the China Non-Ferrous Metals Industry Association, which reports to the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, which reports to the State Council, which reports to Xi Jinping. It's a command structure disguised as a trade association. When Western companies call Chinese suppliers begging for silver, those suppliers don't just quote prices. They file reports with Beijing about Western desperation levels. They share intelligence about Western stockpile levels. They coordinate responses to maximize Chinese leverage. This morning, multiple sources confirmed that the 44 licensed companies held an emergency video conference to discuss pricing coordination and strategic response to Western demand surge. That's cartel behavior. That's price fixing. That's market manipulation. But it's legal under Chinese law because the Chinese government isn't bound by Western antitrust regulations. They're playing by different rules. Rules they write. Rules they change. Rules designed to maximize Chinese power and minimize Western independence. The licensing system itself is designed for control, not efficiency. Each of the 44 companies must apply annually for license renewal. Beijing can revoke licenses at any time for national security reasons or strategic considerations. This gives the Chinese government absolute power over global silver flows. If China wants to pressure the US over Taiwan, they revoke export licenses. If they want technology transfers from European companies, they restrict silver allocations. If they want to crash Western stock markets, they announce temporary supply disruptions. Silver becomes a weapon. Industrial dependence becomes vulnerability. And Western companies become hostages to Chinese strategic objectives. But the most insidious aspect of this system is that it creates permanent dependence. Western companies can't just build new supply chains overnight. Silver mining takes 10-15 years from discovery to production. Silver refining requires specialized facilities and technical expertise that takes decades to develop. China spent 30 years building their silver processing infrastructure while Western countries shut down their domestic capabilities in favor of cheaper Chinese imports. Now, those decisions are coming back to haunt every Western company that chose efficiency over security. Looking ahead, today's panic is just the preview of what's coming because the 44 licensed companies are testing Western pain tolerance. They're learning exactly how much Western industry is willing to pay and what strategic concessions they're willing to make for silver access. The initial quotes coming out of China this morning range from $95 to $110 per ounce for immediate delivery, but that's just the opening bid. As Western companies get more desperate, as stockpiles run lower, as production lines start shutting down, those prices will rise. $120, $150, $200 per ounce, not because silver is getting scarcer, because China is getting greedier and Western dependence is getting deeper. The most terrifying aspect of this supply shock is that it's designed to be permanent. This isn't a temporary disruption that resolves when prices rise high enough to incentivize new supply. This is structural reorganization of global commodity flows. China isn't planning to reverse the licensing system when Western companies scream loud enough. They're planning to extract maximum value from Western industrial hostages for decades. The 44 companies holding the keys to global silver aren't businesses. They're instruments of state power in an economic war that Western leaders are only beginning to understand. Supply shock day one is ending, but the crisis is just beginning. Tomorrow, more Western companies will discover their suppliers have disappeared. Next week, more production lines will shut down. Next month, more Western governments will start begging China for silver access on Chinese terms. The panic we're seeing today among procurement managers will spread to boardrooms, then to government offices, then to the general public when product shortages hit store shelves. China just proved that controlling critical materials gives you more power than controlling currencies or armies or technologies. They control the atoms that make modern civilization possible, and they're about to make Western industry pay whatever it takes to keep those atoms flowing. Day one of the supply shock is over. Day one of Western industrial submission has begun. I'm Economic Asian Guy. Remember to prepare for shortages, expect price explosions, and understand that the world just fundamentally changed. The 44 companies holding the keys to global silver aren't unlocking doors, they're locking them, and Western industry is trapped on the wrong side.